For those of you hoping for a return to June and the warm and sunny weather we saw then, well, you're going to be disappointed for next week. However, it is all relative, and next week does look a little calmer than this weekend. Okay, let's try and put some detail on. Low pressure has been dominating our weather all week, generating an awful lot of showers. It is starting to pull away up to the northeast, and as it does so, it means we won't see as many showers on Thursday. It is still going to be a day of sunshine and showers, but more of an emphasis on blue sky and not so much the downpours. Where we see them, they could still be on the heavy side, particularly over parts of northern and eastern Scotland, and a scattering of showers over central and eastern England during the afternoon. But a good part of northwest England, Wales and southern England will have a largely dry day, certainly a drier day compared to much of the rest of the week. You will notice, however, a further area of rain lurking behind me, spreading up towards Northern Ireland. And that is one of two weather systems that are really mixing things up for the weekend. Gathering out in the Atlantic, there's one, there's the other. And this one to the southwest really does need watching because, as you see, as it approaches the UK, it intensifies. Isobars popping out of it, merging them with that other area of low pressure. And that is not a pretty chart if you've got plans for the outside this weekend. That is going to promise wet and windy conditions across the UK. Saturday, of course, St Swithin's Day as well. Why is that low pressure developing? Well, regular viewers of the 10-day trend may think there's something to do with the jet stream, and you'd be right. But why is the jet stream intensifying? Well, for that, we need to head over the other side of the Atlantic and rewind back to the here and now. Low pressure sitting over Hudson Bay, and we've seen some stormy conditions across the northeast of the US. Heat and humidity has been building across that northeastern corner of North America, and it's all been pushed northwards by that low pressure. The winds taking the warmth northwards and hitting the pretty cool conditions across northern parts of Greenland. And it's that contrast as the warmth hits the cooler air that will start to generate more action in the jet stream. And here's the jet stream driving south as a result of that through Thursday and picking up those low pressure systems as they move towards the UK and developing them. Hence why the isobars are popping out of them, and that low is intensifying as it moves up towards the UK. That, as I said, spells a period of wet and windy weather across the UK. Starting on Friday across the southwest, but then the rain spreading to all areas by the end of Friday. The isobars squeezing together as well, and that wet and windy weather then just churning around that low pressure. So bands of showers for many during Saturday. By Sunday, it's starting to move away, and it is what we call filling, so losing some of its intensity. Still plenty of isobars on the chart, but they are just opening up a touch further south, so the winds may be easing a little, but whichever way you look at it, it's a pretty blustery weekend, and particularly Friday and early Saturday, some unseasonably strong gusts of wind across the southwest initially, but a higher probability of some lively gusts across England and Wales during the day. And depending on exactly where that low pressure sits, also parts of Scotland, the chance of those stronger gusts does ease during Sunday, but nevertheless, it'll still be a blustery setup. So a spell of unseasonably strong winds with some heavy rain as well. Now, exactly where that low sits, which depends on the exact development from the jet stream, will determine how much rain we see, but there is the potential for some disruption. More sunshine and showers on Sunday, but as I said, still fairly breezy. What about after that and into next week? Well, that low does, like the one at the moment, pull away up to the northeast, and the isobars do start to open up more by the time we get into the new working week and Monday. So Monday does look a little calmer for sure, but out to the west there is another little weather feature here, another area of low pressure that does need watching. Now, by this stage the jet stream isn't as intense. It's still dipping down to the southwest, but it's not as lively. There's not that bigger zone of the pink core of the jet, and it's looking fairly fragmented out in the Atlantic as well. So that all kind of signals that the weather for next week won't be as intense or as lively as it will be through the course of the weekend. We do have to watch developments with this low. It could bring a spell of wetter weather across the south, but the most likely setup for next week is that low pressure remains somewhere up to the northeast, and so we keep something of a northwesterly flow. That's dictated here by these kind of mid-blue colours. So this is the regime, the likelihood of different types of different flavours of weather through next week going along the bottom, with the percentage chance up here to 100%. Now we've got these dark blues, which is that unsettled spell with wet, windy weather from that low pressure dominating through the weekend. But that does diminish as we go into next week. The probabilities of that regime do tend to drop, and the most likely regime with the biggest probability, the biggest chance, is this mid-blue range, which is suggesting a northwesterly airflow, and that means that we're going to see more showers, and with a northwesterly wind, it's never going to be particularly warm, and it means that most of the showers will be, or more of the showers, I should say, will be focused towards the north and the west. So the driest conditions will be further south and east. So, as I said, next week does look calmer than the weekends, but nowhere near as warm and as settled as it was during June. So it's just a case of relativity with the weather. Still showery for sure, and still generally remaining on the cool side. Let's take a look at some charts then for next week. This is the chance of 5 millimetres of rain on each of the days from the European model. The probabilities of seeing 5 millimetres of rain, and the greater chance with that northwesterly wind, as you would imagine, always in that northwestern corner. So Western Scotland, Northern Ireland, with a smaller risk further south. Now, depending on that track of the low, I think that's what's being picked up here with a greater chance of some wetter weather over central areas on Tuesday. But that depends, as I said, on the position of that low down to the southwest. But you can see we are looking at showery conditions, and northwestern areas seeing the most showers, southern and eastern areas seeing the fewest showers. And it's the southeast corner which will probably see the highest temperatures with that kind of wind direction, but these temperatures are still going to be fairly low for the time of year. Remember, the 19th, that is the anniversary of the 40 Celsius that we got last year. So we're going to be a long way from that. Good chunk of the country, the probability, the chance of seeing 20 degrees Celsius is pretty slim. Decent chance over East Anglia in the southeast, but that's just for 20 Celsius. If we bump that up to 25 Celsius, well, it's hard to see any signature for that across pretty much the whole of next week. So that is definitely telling us the cool theme is set to continue. This kind of backs that up as well. These are the meteorograms, the box and whiskers plots for the four capitals: Edinburgh, Belfast, London and Cardiff. Sorry if that's a bit tricky to see, but basically the boxes of these maximum temperatures over the course of next week are always at or below the average, the rain line there. So just telling us again, just reiterating, the next week is likely to stay on the cool side. Now, there won't be as many showers around as this week. It won't be as heavy or as intense, but generally the cool and sun shower mixture will continue, it looks like, for most of next week. For day-to-day details, as always, do keep up to date. And if you want to know more about the jet stream, check out our deep dive video from Tuesday afternoon.